Welcome back to today's video. Another scorching summer day here in Taichung. My name is Alan, and on this channel I aim to inform or entertain the internet about life here in Taiwan. And as an expat here for the past 10 years, I enjoy answering some of the big questions that the world has to ask about Taiwan. Which brings me to today's video's topic: is Taiwan wealthy? So first let me say that I specifically chose the adjective wealthy as opposed to asking is Taiwan rich, because I feel that the adjective rich can cover many more aspects other than money, such as is Taiwan rich in culture, cuisine, and diversity, among other examples. Maybe there's another video on that in the future. But as for today, we are asking, is Taiwan wealthy? And I could almost end the video right now with a simple yes, it is very wealthy, especially when we consider its relatively small size and population. But of course, there are more details and caveats behind that simple yes answer that I gave you. And also, I feel that the story of how Taiwan became so wealthy is much more interesting. So let me begin with a very brief history lesson. In the 1950s, Taiwan was a very poor country, ranking among some of the poorest countries in the world. And that was due to decades of war, colonialism, and other such problems that would just make it difficult for any country to gain wealth. And the 1950s was when Taiwan started to see relative stability and independence, and now, just 3 or 4 generations later, Taiwan sits number 22 when measured by GDP per capita. That's above countries like Canada, the UK, France, and Japan. So how did it do it? How did Taiwan go from being among the poorest countries in the world to now ranking alongside the wealthiest? Well, from conversations that I've had over the past 10 years on this subject, and from some recent research I did online, the answer appears to be farmers. Yes, farmers and agriculture. And if we go back to 1946, post-Second World War, when the Japanese had just lost control of Taiwan, in 1946, a lot of the farmers here in Taiwan, they were renting their farms from rich landowners, and they were paying 50, 60, sometimes 70% of their harvest shares in rent to those rich landowners. The rich were getting richer, the poor were staying pretty poor. But in 1946, the Taiwanese government implemented a land reform, which started to see some of these farmers that were renting their properties actually buying them from the government, owning their own land, farming their own land. And at least if they weren't owning their own land, they were now paying much less rent on government-owned land. And as a direct result of this, many of the farmers now found themselves making extra profits, and they were willing to invest that money back into the farms, better equipment, more modern farming methods, and thus the upward spiral began. The average Taiwanese person now started to build wealth for the first time. Again, from my research online, Ministry of Interior figures show that during the 4 years from 1949 to 1952, there was a 23% increase in the income of the average farmer. And as a result, social status, standard of living, all increased for farmers. More of their children started to go to school, the average death rate dropped for farmers, and following the introduction of this land reform in the 2 years from 1951 to 1953, the amount of land owned by farmers as opposed to being rented increased from 50% to 90%. As a direct result of this, what was known as the land to the tiller program. And this hugely successful land reform has actually now become a model for other developing countries to implement. Basically, this land reform was the seed that started the explosive growth of Taiwan's economies in the 50s that has now led to the huge wealth we see here in Taiwan. So now that you know that Taiwan's wealth and economy was built on a foundation provided by farming and agriculture, you may be asking yourself, well, how did Taiwan go from becoming rice sellers and fruit sellers into providing the world with iPhones, silicon chips, LCD TVs, and silicon chips? Well, there are basically 3 stages to the economic boom that has taken place here over the past 60 years. If we take the land reform as the first stage, then the second would be the industrialization stage, led by huge tycoons such as Terry Gou of Foxconn, and he put to work a hard-working generation of workers that had been raised by these hard-working farmers, put them into the factories where Taiwan was making things, creating things, and selling it to the world. And in the 70s and the 80s, those products produced by Taiwan may have been somewhat nasty, cheap plastic products, but the world bought them. And that financed Taiwan's second wave of industrialization, where they went on to producing high-quality consumer electronics, TVs, iPhones, silicon chips, as I mentioned earlier, of a much higher quality than those available over the Taiwan Strait. So Taiwanese companies such as Quanta, the aforementioned Foxconn, Pegatron and the like, they have helped funnel money into Taiwan's economy and ensure that it stays wealthy. And they are just the technology companies. Giant Bicycles, China Steel, Uni-President Foods. They are also some internationally renowned, well-known, famous Taiwanese brands that have helped to build Taiwan into the wealthy, strong economy that it has, and take Taiwan from that second stage of the economic boom, from that industrialization, into this third stage now of post-industrialization, where the innovation-led companies will do their research, move forwards, improve on their technologies and their products, and ensure that Taiwan stays as an economic power. So there's my short and simple take on why I believe Taiwan became so wealthy and why it's gonna stay so wealthy for the foreseeable future. Now, of course, by no stretch of the imagination am I a perfect economist, and I've patched together all of this information from people I've spoken to and different sources online. Therefore, it's likely that I've made some glaringly bad errors or missed out some key information, but I hope to just give the audience a general basic idea of how Taiwan built its wealth. But if there's something you want to add or something you want to correct that I've said wrong, then please, by all means, hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what mistakes I've made, what you want to add to the discussion. As always, my videos and my channel is open for discussion. So all that's left for me to say now is a huge goodbye and an even bigger thank you to everybody for watching. Thanks to all of my team, VVVIP, for being here to the very end of the video. It's much appreciated. And of course, I have one more member into my Patreon that I want to welcome, Lance King. Welcome to the team. Thank you so much for the support you're showing me over on Patreon. If that's something you want to take a look at, there's a link in the description below. Go check it out. See if it's something you're interested in. But anyway, let's wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to put a comment in the comment section below if you have anything to add. And give me a like, give me a share. It really helps me boost my rankings up YouTube, as at the moment they're really tightening their belts and restricting my videos. So like, comment, share, whatever you want. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time in my life in Taiwan.